Hey everyone, it's Monica. Welcome back to Artsy Bits, my channel where you know there will be creativity, but you don't always know what the creativity will be. Today I am working with my koi watercolors that are in tubes, and I'm creating this little travel tin to take with me when I go places. So I'm using this little top secret spy kit tin that actually was my son's, but he said it was okay with him if I used it. It had been sitting out in the weather for a while, so it's a little bit rusty, it's a little bit worse for wear, but I figured it wouldn't be a problem if I'm just creating this little travel watercolor tin. I got some of these little watercolor pans off Amazon, and they came with little magnet backings, so they were made for this purpose. And basically, I'm looking at the tin here and I'm trying to figure stuff out. Now, I'm going to be honest, these little watercolor pans ended up coming and being quite a bit smaller than what I had thought they were going to be. And I only have a dozen of these koi watercolors to add to this tin. If I had many more, this might be just right, but I was able to fit them all the way across. However, later I realized that I'm working in the lid right now, and when I transfer it to the base later in the video, you'll see that 12 across actually don't work. So I'm going to do a little troubleshooting as I go here, but it is something that I want to do. I feel like these koi watercolors are a set that I picked up at a garage sale for really inexpensively, but they'd never been used, and actually I've never used them, and I think I've had them for well over a year, maybe even two. That's so embarrassing that you buy an art supply and then don't use it. But that's just the reality for me, is that I have not used them at all. And the reason I haven't used them is I'm not a huge fan of things that come in tubes. I don't like to have to squeeze it out. I don't know why. It's a personal preference. It seems really silly saying it out loud, but that's reality. And so I'm using my little label maker here to go ahead and label each one of these little watercolor pans so that when I add the watercolor to them, I'll know what color is in there for sure, so that when it comes time to refill, I'll refill them with the correct color as well. So anyways, my hope and dream is that by doing this, I will actually use these koi watercolors a little bit more. I know that koi watercolors, I don't think they're artist grade or anything special at all, but I still thought it would be a great thing to have a little tin of travel watercolors. And I just thought it would be a fun project. I love doing projects like this. Are you like me, where you love to watch videos where people mess with their art supplies? I just love that. I love watching people set up palettes and rearrange their art supplies, organize their art supplies. It's just so fun. So here I go filling up my watercolor pans and realizing that some of these paints are a lot thicker than others. So that's going to be kind of my first observation here, is that these paints really vary from color to color as far as the consistency of the paint goes. Now perhaps that's because I bought these 2 years ago and haven't used them, and I don't think the person before me used them either. The person who owned them at the garage sale, I don't think had used them, but perhaps that's it, or perhaps the consistency of these watercolors just differ color to color. It ends up not being a big deal. I've used these since this video was recorded, and it doesn't seem to affect anything, so I'm still enjoying them, but it was just kind of an observation. So I'm just having a blast here, filling these up. If you find yourself enjoying this video as you're watching it, would you take a quick second and give it a thumbs up? Be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of my other silly uploads here on Artsy Bits. I'm just sharing my art journey along with you as I go through and learn more and more about art and art supplies and how to do this crazy thing called creativity. So here's the part I was referring to earlier. I'm thinking these are all going to fit because I tested it earlier and they did. And there you go. They don't. And I'm realizing it's because I was testing it in the lid of the tin instead of in the base of the tin. And the lid is, of course, slightly wider than the base of the tin is. But I quickly just rearranged these. They've got the magnets on the base already, and I'm setting them in there. And this is kind of what I see myself doing with this tin. I would put some paintbrushes, maybe a pencil and an eraser in there, and use this on a trip. Now, one thing I don't want to leave this project without completing is a swatch chart. So what I'm doing here is just tracing out on the koi watercolor box lid. I'm tracing out the silhouette of this box, and I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to go ahead and add it into the lid of the tin, just so that I quickly can reference what the colors look like as I'm painting. That's one of the best things you can do, I'm finding, is just know what the color is going to look like out of the bottle, or know what the color is going to look like on paper and out of the pan. And so I'm having fun creating some of these swatching charts for different art supplies of mine. I recently did one of these types of things with my Inktense blocks, and I threw that video over on my other channel. If you're interested in that, you can subscribe or check that out. But I basically took my Inktense blocks and reworked them into a storage tin as well, complete with a swatch chart in the lid, and I'm just having fun reorganizing and making my art supplies just that much more usable for me. I know that I just don't use things when they're not set up in a way that I enjoy. So I'm deciding to go ahead and set them up in a way I enjoy, and then if I still don't use them, it's time to pass them on. It's time to let them go, release them to the universe, and let them find their new home. So I quickly just used a Sharpie pen and wrote the names of all these colors down on the swatch chart here, and then I'm going to go through and go ahead and swatch these. Now, this kind of didn't go as well as I had hoped with the swatches, and I know exactly why. It's because these watercolors now that are in the pan are somewhere halfway between dry and wet, and this swatching would have been much more successful had I let them dry completely and then done it, or if I had done it as soon as everything was just freshly out of the tube. I hope that makes sense. Basically, I'm dealing with paints right here that are partly dry on the top but wet in the center, so they're not going on as smoothly as I had hoped. Especially that one there, it got really globby, so I had to clean it up a little bit, but it gets the idea across. And for me, in a travel tin that's not artist grade or anything really that special, it's going to work just fine. I used a couple little tiny rolls of washi tape there to affix the swatch chart to the lid, and then I went ahead and added the washi tape into this little travel tin along with a mechanical pencil and everything I might need to create some little watercolor along my journeys. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed this. Like I said, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Do you have a watercolor tin like this? Do you like it? Do you use it? What's your experience been taking watercolors on trips with you? I'd love to hear your stories. Join us over on Artsy Adventures on Facebook. I'd love to hear more of your stories and see your artwork over there. I'm on Instagram at InstaArtsyBits. If you're interested in my spiritual journey, you can click the icon in the lower right corner. And of course, subscribe to this channel by clicking on that green cow. I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.